particularly the more recent paintings, you know, that for the last, what is it, 2 years now, you've been painting these paintings, and they're in this particular set.
Yeah, and this is his set.
And they're, you know, when I look at them, you know, they're getting more and more complex. They're getting, there's a lot more involvement of forms against each other. The space has completely changed. And the space changed enormously, like from those early paintings where when you mentioned perspective, where all the forms are sort of going back in perspective, and they never came back. I mean, they just sort of disappeared in a vanishing point.
Yeah. How I achieve the tension in my paintings is by treating these non-identifiable objects with structure. Nobody who's really looked at these paintings has even told me that they thought they were architectural. You know, someone said that this was a pile of mailboxes, so that even though they may be unrecognizable, they do appear built properly.
And the paintings are totally abstract now.
Yeah.
Particularly in this last group that you're working on right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, the forms are getting much richer. The spaces are much more, there's much more activity going on in the space. I'm looking at these things right now, and there are these vortexes going on. But the space, the forms still have their sources in these weird kind of architectural experiences that you had there.
Right.
And we were talking about these two paintings in terms of Vienna.
Right.
And how the Nazis built these turrets, these bunkers.
These flak towers,
These flak towers.
These are all part of this series, and there are some repeating forms. You know, I shouldn't necessarily point out, but there are some repeating forms in all of the paintings in the series. More in generally, they're about just urban environments in Eastern Europe, unless it's locked in my subconscious and it's Brooklyn, and when I was 5, I really can't say for sure, but I mean it to be these areas. And just all the contrasting elements and architectural periods and what it denotes historically. What else am I going to see but contrasts anyway as a painter?
But, I mean, but the paintings are not just about the contrast. The paintings are sort of about the interaction. And,
yeah, like a dialogue.
And there's a real kind of dialogue. I mean, it's like somebody having a polite dinner conversation and somebody's farting in the middle of it. So now this brings up the idea of abstraction. Oui. I mean, abstraction has its source as an abstraction of something that was at one point real.
Yeah.
And I mean, think of Kandinsky's abstractions, and they come out of his funky landscapes, right?
Yeah.
And even though, like in the later paintings, you don't find the little Russian church anymore, and the smokestacks
and the horse jumping over the log,
right? Those things are all gone. But since you saw them in the beginning, you still look for them.
Yeah.
In a funky way.
Yeah.
Now, but these paintings have nothing to do with that. I mean, they don't really deal with the sources that went into these paintings, and your own sort of like the things that stuck to your gut, or the odors that you smelt there, or anything like that. I mean, they might start a painting, but they really are totally independent of what finally ends up.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really the forms take on a life of their own, and then you're just trying to kind of flesh out the interrelationships between forms, and you get sucked. I mean, abstraction, you get sucked into this world where different things are real, and you know, fleshing these things out and giving them an actual space. You can't even call it real space. I like to refer to it as the chair behind the table, just like hello, this form's in front of that form. But that relationship is not a chair behind a table. It's just
But if somebody really wanted to, they could still look at these paintings as landscapes.
Sure they could.
There's kind of a generic sense of landscapes, and then there's the specific landscapes of the little rowboat on the river, or whatever, right?
Right.
And your little rowboats on the river have all sort of
leaks. Ain't that a hole in the boat?
even though there's no separation between sky and land anymore. I mean, they sort of merge into each other.
They do merge, although I sometimes get stuck with some sort of reference to some sort of horizon line. That is something I actually, I mean, these things are in progress, and it's a thing I deal with. Because once I infer a horizon line, then you have some sense that you're looking at either some tumbled mountain field or some buildings or something like that. But it seems to work and then ground the space as well.
So if you look at 15 of your paintings, would you say that the upper part of the painting tends to be blue?
Well, I don't know if I'm that obvious, but yeah, blue or whitish blue or greenish blue or reddish blue. Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily a happy place, but it's a human place.
Okay.
Sure.